someone asked, because Phil was there, you could have gone, but you didn't bother.
Yeah.
I didn't go because I wasn't invited in Scotty. They never invited to these things. Paul says the transcript was published in the paper today, which is useful because we all read it.
Yeah.
But no comments. Any view on this?
I've got a view on it. Do you want to go first?
I found it quite dispiriting, to be honest.
What, being there or
Well, no,
sitting next to me or being there? What was
nice.
dispiriting?
The fact that there was no acknowledgement whatsoever of the issues that the game is currently under. That, you know, governance is fine. The Great Britain tour, well, the results weren't so great, but Great Britain was alright. It was alright. And the impression given, whether accidentally or deliberately, is that Wayne Bennett will be the coach of England up until the World Cup.
Who knew?
Even though we won't know that for 10 weeks. Formally, it was. Well, you got
Tell a review this.
You've got to take
Not
into
mind you, in
account
fairness, when you only work 1 day a week, it'd take you a while to do it, wouldn't it?
and then obviously the whole Bradford scenario where we were told that there was no need for an independent inquiry at all because it's really great news that there's been a transfer of ownership and the creditors are absolutely delighted that they're all going to get paid out and they wouldn't have done if it had gone into administration, so wildly happy about that. And you don't need to investigate an independent board with an independent inquiry, otherwise where would it end? And you just think it's just not addressing the issue.
But Ralph, as he
It's
said
not
last
addressing the
in the thing, said that an independent review would paralyse the organisation. Well, it only would if it found any wrongdoing. If there's no wrongdoing to find, and I'm of the opinion now is we'll give the people what they want. Ralph, let them let the investigation happen. If you've nothing to hide, you've nothing to hide. Let it go. It'd be the best. It'd be the strongest. If a genuinely independent review came out and went, Ralph has done nothing wrong, that'd be the best vote of confidence he'll ever get.
An independent board has made a lot of these decisions. You can now look at this collective decision and find if they've been made in the best interest of the sport. Just because the board that made them is independent doesn't mean that it shouldn't be investigated.
No, I agree. What do you make of the no comment in the paper then? Am I putting you on the spot?
No, not really. I mean, that's down to the people that own the papers. I think some of the reporters there were pretty incensed that they were being fobbed off, and there have been some interesting pieces in the Yorkshire Post from Dave Craven. I think Aaron Bauer wrote a piece in The Guardian that's slightly different to the pieces that are in the trade paper that he writes for, a little bit more critical. I think that there were some people in the room. Ross Heppenstall's been very close to the whole Bradford situation through his time as a correspondent at the Telegraph and Argus, probably as well informed as anybody about the nuances that have gone on over a longer period of time. And I think that they all felt that merely to try and brush it under the carpet and say there's nothing to see here was completely the wrong way of handling this.
What do you think is my opinion is, and I've said this before about a number of issues, is that Martin Sadler, who owns League Express, is one of the 2 weekly trade papers. Now, the other one, Danny Lockwood, we know is a good friend of Nigel's, saw him playing golf not so long ago together. Are they going to investigate Nigel and the perceived wrongdoing? I say perceived because there is no evidence there is any wrongdoing. Are they going to look at that? No, I think Martin Sadler's got. It's all right him turning up at the grand final presser and asking loads of questions as he generally does. I don't see him there on a Thursday night when it's snowing in Salford and they're playing OKR. He's never there.
He was at the briefing.
So he was at the briefing. Asked a lot of questions. So why are we not getting some of his thoughts on this? Why, when some of his employees clearly think differently to him, why are we not getting to hear their opinion on what's going on here? Why are we getting this is what was said, make of it what you will? I think he's got a responsibility to the game. He earns a living out of the game. He's got a responsibility to the game to challenge what's going on here.
I think more than that, if we're all serious about wanting to get to the bottom of what has gone on, then that can only come from a proper journalistic investigation into everything. And nobody is trying to say that person was responsible at that moment and that's the reason why it happened. This is all cumulative. And the governing body is implicated in some decisions that have been made that with an independent inquiry may turn out to exonerate them completely from every decision that was made. You look at that point in time and say That's why we did it. That's who was involved in the decision-making process, and that's why they came to that decision. And it may well be that somebody who is independent looks at that and goes, I can see why you did it. With the benefit of hindsight, it might not have turned out the way you expected
But
it
hindsight
to.
is a wonderful
But
thing.
what you've done
Yeah.
covers every single governance rule that you've put in place. You perfectly. But there are things now that are happening whereby someone who is involved in the decision making to buy the lease of a stadium is involved in the running of the company that has the lease to that stadium. Now, you may or may not think that's vested interest, but an independent inquiry will tell you whether it is or it isn't. And if you don't have skeletons in the cupboard, you've nothing to hide. It's the same with. There are lots of issues about at what point in time is a decision made and who should be making that decision. And one of the questions that was brought up at the briefing was, is it right that any one person, whoever they are, however well-meaning and intentioned they are, can own a share in two different clubs, particularly when those two clubs play in the same division? Now, I would have said that is the very definition of conflict of interest, even if the people involved have the utmost integrity. To me, the decision to not allow them to do that comes from the governing body. The governing body's line on that is, well, we put it back to the clubs, and the clubs said there was nothing. Well, the clubs won't, will they? Because, if York hadn't got investment from somebody who already owned a share in another club, if Bradford maybe hadn't got investment from somebody who owns a share in another club, both York and Bradford may not be here now. And the governing body is taking the line of least resistance by saying, let's ask the clubs if it's okay that people can have a share just so we keep these clubs going. And to me, that's not the role of the governing body. That's what needs investigating. The principle is, no, you can't. You can decide. We're not going to push you either one way or the other, but you decide from your point of view, your investment money. We encourage you to put money into the clubs, but you can't have two.
But also, when I look at the question here, are you confident we'll see a Bradford renaissance? Well, again, this is a bit of spin, isn't it? Ralph Rimmer, yes. Karen Morehouse. The Challenge Cup match versus Leeds looked fantastic. It showed there is still massive potential for a fantastic fan base in Bradford. Well, Leeds and Bradford are always going to get a decent crowd.
No, I agree. But what it did show, Gary, I don't know when they last played Leeds, but it shows the less times you play the game, the bigger crowd you get. If you said Leeds are going to play Cass once in the next 5 years, people would go watch.
Absolutely. Again, so it's a spin. And then Rimmer, this has not been a disaster. The club didn't exist 3 years ago. They've been relegated and then promoted, beaten Leeds, had a transfer of ownership, got a substantial crowd against Leeds. That isn't a nightmare. Hold on.
They've gone bust.
They've gone bust, but also as well, after 2 years with Chalmers in charge and Graham Law, let's not forget he was a major sharer as well, the 1.2 million in debt. What does that tell you?
We haven't seen the third year yet.
What does that tell you?
Well,
It's just absolute spin.
So a couple of things from this quote from Ralph Rimmer. The club didn't exist 3 years ago, so everyone can stop pretending that the Bradford Bulls 2017 is a continuation of Bradford Northern 1964. For a start, they've beaten Leeds. Wakefield beat Leeds a couple of times last year. We're in a renaissance now. Leeds were crap at that
Leeds
point,
weren't
weren't
very
they?
good.
Leeds were. People are forgetting Leeds in 2019 were crap. Bradford
In crisis for most of the season, I seem
They
to
were.
remember.
Bradford beating them.
firmly. Oh, those were halcyon days.
This sounds strange, doesn't it? But results on the field are irrelevant to how well the business is run.
Yes,
You at the back, don't forget
100%.
that you were told the Bulls
because,
are back.
because both trade papers went with the line that Bradford were back.
And
with no evidence
the
bar one result.
the truth
because
of-
people aren't bothered to investigate things until it becomes apparent to everyone what everyone's known all along, and then they all jump on the bandwagon.
But the truth of that Leeds result was put into context by the Halifax result.
Where no one turned up.
But that was a game that if Bradford were on the up, they needed to win to get into a semi-final. I mean, Halifax did magnificently against St Helens, almost regenerated a lot of interest in that club with the way that they played.
Well, you remember,
That should have been Bradford.
going back to the
Well, not
Bulls,
should have been, but that could have
I
been
questioned when they took an under-strength team up to Barrow,
Bradford.
because I
And
said going to Wembley would have been more
Absolutely.
beneficial to the Bulls than finishing sixth in the
Absolutely.
championship, and that's exactly what ended up happening.
I mean, I think, again, you mentioned Andrew Chalmers, and that's another reason why there needs to be an independent inquiry, because on the table at that point was more than one bid. Now, he was chosen as the preferred bid. If you've nothing to hide, tell us the process behind why. It doesn't take a huge amount of investigation, even using the internet, to look at Andrew Chalmers' trading history,
Mm.
inside and outside of rugby league, he clearly wasn't the best bid.
Yeah.
According to Ralph at the time, it was the least worst option. Again, that just needs investigating, because when did we become a sport that looked at the least worst? You talk to the players at the time who were briefed by an alternative bidder. That was the one they wanted to throw their weight behind. Just tell us why you chose Andrew Chalmers. And there may be a perfectly good.
Why did Andrew
rational
Chalmers
reason.
come halfway around the world to lose 1.2 million in 2 years?
And
And then walk away and go, it doesn't matter, lads, you can have it.
Was it his 1.2 million? Because I think if I'd lost 1.2 million, I wouldn't be quite so
Well, it might be more than one.
laissez-faire about going, actually, I don't want that back.
We might find out one day.
Well, you will with an independent inquiry, to be fair.
Well, we can't have an independent inquiry. We'll paralyse the game.
Mm.
It's like the government, without getting into politics and anything. But when they say the government is paralysed by this one big issue that we all know about, but we need to sort it out, and they can sort it out themselves, but they don't sort it out, and then blame everyone else. Bradford is the fault of everyone else, apart from the people whose fault it is. But we can't find out who those people are because we're not allowed to.
Well, I think one of the articles of association of the Rugby Football League is that they have to work in the best interest of all the clubs.
Well,
The other clubs are now saddled with a debt of £200,000 to mothball a stadium. Surely that alone is worthy of investigation.
Well, is this now what's causing people to kick off?
Yeah.
Because
So
it's for, and as I said, right,
Absolutely.
I said this last week, I think the fact that the RFL and the Super League clubs were involved at this time chose to pay off Nigel instead of looking at everything then. They chose to pay him off, they've allowed him to walk away. I find it very difficult that you can go back over that ground now. But, and I'll maintain this, I think I said it last week, the buying of the Odsal, whilst I don't condone it, I think you can justify it.
Yeah, fine.
Because they
From a
paid
business point of
750
view,
grand.
Yeah.
They have had, so we're told, 72 grand a year in rent, although that's not ever been proven, has it? 72 grand a year in rent for 6, 7 years with an ongoing thing. They'd have got the money back in 10 years and you've still got an asset that's worth £750,000. That in itself is good business. The problem, and this is a question that can be answered, is who the hell allowed Chalmers to have that club without signing that lease? And that is something that I think
even
now, if you're at Batley or whatever, going, I'm going to have to pay money or lose money to pay for that. Who made that decision? Because if you employ me at your shop, Phil, and I said, well, what it is, I've let this guy have 200 grand's worth of book. Don't worry, he's going to pay us. Don't, it'll be all right. And then next week he comes, I'm not paying you, and you're 200 grand out of pocket. You're going to go, Mark, I think it's time you got another job. Off you go, son. So that should have happened, and that ain't happening. And that is incompetence. That is incompetence, and that needs sorting out. Does anyone actually get? Do they have appraisals at the RFL?
Well,
because they
they
can't
have-
have.
they
Because
have
if
to.
people did, people not doing the job would be turfed out, but they're not. It's unbelievable.
But the other thing as well is they've only granted Bradford 1 year away from Bradford. But there is no indication at all as to how Bradford are going to move back to Bradford.
I swear Bradford played Sheffield in the last ever game played at Odsal. Anyway, Ralph Remner stood next to a table here, scooters out the shop. Clubs to debate Bradford inquiry, says Aaron Bauer in this morning's League Express, who understand that, or they're aware rather, understands a word from previous days, aware of at least 3 clubs who are now going door to door to other clubs, like the
Canvassing.
Jehovah's Witnesses, can interest you in a public inquiry, saying that there is a large proportion of clubs demand it. The weight of pressure on the governing body will be significant if there is. Now the problem
Why
is
don't they push for a vote
I'll
of
tell
no
you what,
confidence?
when Club X, because we don't know who these clubs are, go, hello, is that the Ram Stadium? Is Mark Sawyer there? Fancy a public inquiry?
Ah well. What? So I mean, what? Do you think time has come for a vote of no confidence in Ralph?
I think he's going to find that the stance that they took at this media briefing may come back and haunt them. And that to keep... I understand when you're head of an organisation, that organisation needs to go out and get sponsors. You don't want to paint the picture whereby somebody says, why would I invest in your sport? It seems like things are not going well.
Which
So
is
you've
my
got- you've
again,
got-
it's
you've
my
got-
understanding as why they didn't make an issue out of getting rid of Nigel.
Yeah.
They did it as though it's a
It's
change
almost
in
as if
structure
we
rather
keep
than a-
telling you everything's fine,
yeah.
then you won't ask any questions that make out that we're not investable. My argument would be that sometimes you have to draw a line under things. You have to say, look, the most responsible thing we can do as a sport is acknowledge that we are at a crossroads in our time, whereby to be taken seriously by other sports, admired by other governing bodies, to have maybe external investors want to come in, we need to be seen to be purging and cleansing ourselves. Now is a very good time to do that. And that's not necessarily a weakness, depends on how you play it. But if you keep denying that there is an issue at all, and at some point that issue will come back and bite you on the arse, then all you can do is be reactive. We are never proactive as a sport. It's always like, is there a crisis today? Oh, well, we better deal with that. Has anybody rung up and complained about anything? No. Oh, well, let's all go and have a cup of tea then.
Yeah. Interesting point in the thing about the Championship TV rights latest. This comes back to something we've mentioned before on this show. The question was, what can you tell us about the current state of play regarding the Championship TV? Ralph, there was nothing on the table before for the Championship. I thought he was talking to Channel 4. Did anyone ask him about that?
There's been no formal discussions with anybody.
So why was he?
Channel 4.
So why did he say he was disappointed that the Channel 4 talks got out then? So what you're saying is he made a statement about something that hadn't happened.
What, like meeting the Herns?
No, this is a genuine question.
Absolutely.
So he
There's
was
nothing on the
disappointed that talks got
that
out,
hadn't happened,
but the talks
got
hadn't
out.
happened. So there was nothing on the table, right? Okay. But now we've negotiated a position with Super League, right? This is good, and I said this at the time. Once they got rid of Nigel, they should have all come back together. As we said before, get the Championship on. They might have to play on a Wednesday or a Friday or a Sunday night. Great, get it on. The more the better. The more we can offer. That's good. So they're working together. So straight away I'm thinking, well, I don't need two of you doing the same job. We'll just have one here. Which one are we going to have?
Especially when the RFL moved to Manchester in 2021, which is on the doorstep.
Have they solved it all, yeah?
Apparently they've got an interested party.
Yeah.
He's underneath the Bradford stuff in there.
Yeah, all right, okay. That was one of the reasons for brokering a position in the first instance, because we need to maximise income streams. The world of broadcast and commercial can't afford to be selective about who it takes on. Also, we'll have anyone now.
Get on free sport.
We've had internal discussions about the Championship rights, but this will be a sophisticated deal, the one that is done. It will involve Super League and different parts of the RFL and the platforms we've started to develop. We've set up a media strategy group and are devising a programme that will take us forward.
Bit
Basically,
late,
just gonna
I'd have said, as we're
Wow.
2021 is looming.
So basically, put some more stuff on the app then. Say, hello, hi Sky. I don't know who runs Sky. Hi Comcast. You run Sky these days. Hello Rupert Murdoch. Probably got his number still in the phone book. Can we put like the Championship games on the app because you don't show them on the telly because you only need
Yeah.
an extra one. So
But they're not. It's pathetic, isn't it?
Well,
Nothing's happened.
do you know-
Nothing's happened.
This, again, it's like when I look at one question in again to Rimmer. Is a lack of trust people have in the RFL an issue? Look, we provided the information to stakeholders this week, and hopefully that will show what's happened. There's nothing new there, and it's college everything that has gone on. You just said down up there, Mark, about him and Elsa and all this sort of thing. Does he think everybody who watches Rugby League or interested in Rugby League idiots? Does he think we're all idiots? Because what he's trying to do is insult our intelligence. That's all he's trying to do. That's all he's trying to do, is trying to cover his own ass, cover other people's asses, and insult people's intelligence. So for once, why can't Ralph Rimmer be honest with people? Why can't he be honest with people?
In the same reason he won't allow an independent inquiry, because the only reason you wouldn't be honest is because the truth would hurt people or yourself more than the lies.